Welcome Cancer to your October monthly forecast. I'm going to share some standout details to begin with. Then on screen your event chart right at the start of the month, which always provides an influential backdrop for the whole period. I'll then go through all the key influences frame by frame to give you a clear picture of what to expect. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please help it to continue to thrive and do so now. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. As you come into this new month, Jupiter, the planet of plenty, continues to be in your sign. But if we go back to when Jupiter first arrived or at the end of the first week of June, it was immediately conflicted by the planet of limitation, Saturn. The big irony of this month, Cancer, is you have an enormous opportunity through the last 10 days to actually make these two very contrasting influences come to life in a very positive way for you. But in the early part of this month, I think there is going to be a big focus on your home, emotional and family situation. But just before I go into that, I want to share with you about my unique offer. You can order your personal natal forecast for year 2026 now, and I'll give you the rest of this year free. But also you'll get 30% off the individual prices, and you'll get your life roadmap report in my special package. That really helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far, all of us. It's totally unique to each person, but understanding those patterns and matching them to the forecast will help you to make your moves in the new year much more shrewdly. But also in my special offer, you'll get your free general zodiac forecast for each of the 12 signs, but also your Chinese forecast, your Vedic forecast and your love forecast too in my special booklets. Please see the link below for more. On the screen now, I'm showing that event chart. So there's Jupiter in your sign, but you can see that Jupiter is in a square with Mercury. Mercury in Libra can be detached. It's about communication, of course, but for you, it's the fourth house. So what you're looking for is balance in your home and emotional life. But if you look on the other side of the heavens from Jupiter, your ruler, the moon, is opposing Jupiter, which actually is a very bubbly influence, but it's not in its favourite location. It's known as being detrimented in Capricorn, and they're both linking back to the position of Mercury. So how you're thinking or how you're feeling and communicating that is going to be a big part of this month's story, particularly in the early weeks. If there is something that you want to change around where you live, whether it's move or redecorate or start a home-based business, I think on the whole, this is a very helpful start for the month for you. But the moon in your seventh house suggests you need to be attuned to how other people are viewing what you're trying to achieve. And one of the challenges with Mercury in the fourth house is that we can think a lot, but find it a bit more difficult to actually say how we feel. But if you are a creative, the fact the Sun starts this month in a semi-sextile to Mars in your sister water sign of Scorpio is very, very helpful. Because if there is something you want to change around your home, but if you are a crafter or a maker, or you want to run a home-based business or offer services in your locality, that combination has a lot of thrust and spark, so that's really helpful. Now, as we go into this month on the 6th, Mercury, the planet of communication, moves into the next zodiac sign of Scorpio, where of course you have Mars. Now Mercury here, even though it's deep and penetrative in Scorpio, for you it's going to see you feel a bit more outgoing, because I think in the fourth house, as I mentioned, it can make it more difficult to verbalize how we feel. But on the 7th we do have a full moon. It's a full moon that's going to see your emotions very, very close to the surface. If you're not enjoying your professional situation, I think the issue is going to come sharply into focus over the next couple of weeks, to be honest. On the 13th, however, Venus, which starts this month in an area which does give you an ability, if you can be in touch with how you feel, to articulate them with a degree of grace and charm, well, Venus moves to join up with the Sun and initially Mercury in that fourth house. So if there has been a delay around doing something to your home, perhaps decoratively or having people around, Venus moving into that area can be really good. But it also forges a very powerful link to Uranus and Pluto. You may find that you feel particularly nostalgic at the heart of this month. You may even have a desire to link with people from your past that you haven't had a connection with for some while, and something could move quite quickly in that regard. But from the 14th, Pluto does end its 5-month retrograde. Now, Pluto has been going backwards in a very potent part of your scope. If something has come to a close in your life, unexpectedly perhaps, since the early part of May, it may have been an area where you were actually quite invested, perhaps around your finances, perhaps it's been around a deep relationship, some kind of change or change within you has been very profound. Pluto going direct is not going to change the fact that through to 243, that there is going to be a lot of evolving alterations in your situation, because Pluto in the 8th house is just going to constantly be urging you to dive deep and understand in a much more profound way the inner machinations of your own emotions, but of those of others too. But from the 15th to the 26th is quite an intriguing part of the month for you personally, because what we have then, Cancer, is that Mercury is going to be applying to Mars in that 5th house of your chart, but they become exact on the 20th. Now, that's a combination with the potential to express ideas with a lot of conviction, maybe even a lot of enthusiasm, but certainly if you are someone who is or has got a lot of flair or artistry, or if there is someone really catching your attention romantically, the energy around that is very, very lively indeed, and that can create a sense of excitement, even though there is that tender energy at the root of your chart. Now, the new moon that occurs on the 21st, ordinarily each year, a Libra new moon for you is a chance to reset your inner world, anything to do with how you feel. And of course, that's a huge part of your being, because that's very moon led. It's very much about your senses, your environment. That has to feel right. If something isn't working for you in terms of your core existence, this new moon's asking you to really grapple with that. The 22nd, however, is intriguing. Neptune, the planet of dreams, moves back into your sister water sign of Pisces, joining up with Saturn. And through till the end of January, we'll be in this area. Saturn emerges from Pisces in the middle of February, and they both align on the 18th of February in a very powerful way. And that could be when you start a new epoch in your life around your career or work. But if something has faltered recently, I feel what could come up between now and then is perhaps a need to grapple with freeing yourself from something that isn't working very well. And it could be over a point of principle, you know, if your philosophies don't quite match, perhaps a business you work in, perhaps in a friendship, perhaps your desire to have more time traveling or engaging with the interest that you find very personally uplifting, rather than being so focused on success in the practical world. These are things that are going to be very much part of your narrative through to then. And that's going to be accelerated by the 23rd, when the Sun moves into Scorpio. Now, usually each year that is something to really savour for you, because it can help you to feel more outgoing, but this is a sun that immediately comes into a bruising encounter with Pluto. If there is any kind of jealousy, control, restriction, leverage around any kind of relationship at all, it could come up. It may be over a financial situation. Perhaps you want to buy something, a partner's not in agreement. It could be that there's part of you that wants to be more speculative with your resources, but I wouldn't do that without checking things out in a very, very careful way. Do your research. Now, the 29th is going to see Mercury enter its third home of the month, moving into the sign of Sagittarius, which for you is very practical. But because it goes immediately opposite the retreating Uranus in a very psychological part of your scope, once again, I think this brings up this theme of wanting to create space from something that doesn't really fill your heart with passion, and it isn't really your sole purpose. So I think the early part of this month, to recap, is very much about that home emotional part of your situation. If you're working in an environment that doesn't feed your sense of comfort, you don't really relate to the people very well, you don't like the atmosphere, that's something you may have to grapple with. You could find that your home is quite the sanctuary this month, but I think as the month goes on, there's going to be more pushing towards reaching out, interacting with people, but about the things that you find really exciting. And there may be a need as the month goes on to liberate yourself from something, particularly professionally, which is not really creating much spark, excitement or enjoyment. So Cancer, please click on the link within this video and you can watch your deep dive for year 2026, which is now live.